Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. His Excellency Abdul Aziz Al Ghurair, Chairman, Mashreq Group, Mr. Jameel Ahmed, Governor, State Bank of Pakistan, Zafar Masood Saab, President, PBA, Yusuf Hussain Saab, Chairman, OICCI, Akif Saeed Saab, Chairman, SECP, Mr. Ahmed Abdullal, Group CEO, Mashreq, presidents and CEOs of banks, banking executives, state bank executives, government officials, cabinet colleagues, and last but definitely not least, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. And diplomats as well. I've just spotted a friend and a diplomat in the crowd, so the diplomats as well. I realize I'm the sixth speaker, I think, and I literally stand between you and dinner. So I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. And I'm truly enlightened by the speeches that we just heard. I'll try my best to shed some light as concisely as possible on some points that have perhaps not been raised so far. First of all, I would like to congratulate His Excellency on the launch of Mashreq Digital. We all had the pleasure and privilege of being there yesterday at the launch, which was presided over by the Honorable Prime Minister. We also had the chance to have a meeting and a discussion with the Prime Minister together with His Excellency and the leadership of Mashreq. And it's really, truly very heartening for multiple reasons. I'll speak about the cashless initiative very briefly. But before I do that, I'd like to share a couple of things which I know that two speakers from Mashreq have already given us some very important points regarding their journey and the promise that they hold for their operations here. But two things I've learned from His Excellency, which I would definitely like to highlight, is that, and this is also to the credit of the State Bank, is that from concept to start of operations, it has taken them no longer than 1 year. His Excellency shared that with me. He mentioned that this can take up to 5 years in several other countries. He told me that he has been pleasantly surprised by how quick it has been, how seamless it has been. So that's truly heartening for us. I would like to definitely thank His Excellency for acknowledging this. I would definitely like to congratulate the State Bank team on this, because as you know, we are constantly, as a state, as a government, trying to cut red tape, trying to cut processes. So this is promising in that regard. That by no means means that we don't need to do it in other parts, that there isn't room for improvement, but that's definitely something good to hear. The second aspect of that, which is truly inspiring, is that His Excellency told me that the tech stack that was developed for the digital banking operations, none of it was imported. Everything was developed here by Pakistanis. So it goes to show that we have the talent here, we have the human resource here. We all have a collective responsibility to empower and to harness that potential and put it to use. And I would like to thank the Mashreq team for doing that and showing us the way in that regard. The second story His Excellency told me, and it's been briefly mentioned here today, is that not only are they launching their digital operations, they're also starting their global middle office. They're starting their risk, compliance, and tech operations here. And for that, they're hiring 450 Pakistanis. And for that, they had to get clearance from regulators in places like London, New York, Hong Kong. They managed to get clearance everywhere. They managed to do that for Pakistan. They are now hiring 450 Pakistanis, 45% of whom are women, who will be performing the risk, compliance, and tech operations for Mashreq. That's, again, I think, very inspiring. We clearly have an opportunity here. It is something we need to look at replicating, not just across the rest of the banking industry, but across other sectors as well. And the other thing, when I asked His Excellency, well, where are you going to have this office of 450 people? He said, nowhere. They're all working from home. The 450 people are based in 19 cities. So really, this is, I think, quite an inspirational story for us. I'm sure this is being done elsewhere, but I'm very happy to see a use case here, and I thought it would be useful. And I couldn't think of a better audience to share it with. So I thank His Excellency once again for placing his trust, his team and himself for placing their trust in Pakistan, and for investing, launching operations here, both for the digital bank and for the middle office. Very quickly, I'll now shed some light on the cashless initiative, and perhaps many of you follow the macroeconomic story that we have been on for several years, and for the past year and a half, many of you will be aware, but I would try to very concisely mention that here because I do think it's pertinent. As many of you know, we've been on a macroeconomic stabilization journey. Last year in February, we assumed government. We are in the middle of another IMF program. It's a 37-month EFF program, around $7 billion. We've passed the first review earlier this year. The second review, the team is due later on this year. But over the course of the past year and a half, we've managed to bring inflation down to low single digits. Average inflation last year was down to 4.5%. GDP growth was a modest 2.7%, but we did manage to achieve a current account surplus of $2.1 billion, as opposed to a $2.1 billion deficit in the preceding year. This is the first surplus in 14 years. It's the highest surplus in 22 years, I believe. In addition to that, exports were up, but modestly. We did record remittances of $38.3 billion. These two remain our primary sources of foreign exchange. I mean, foreign exchange reserves are currently at close to $20 billion, 14 billion plus live with the state bank, the rest are with the commercial banks. That's healthy, but clearly we should be doing much better. And that always remains the challenge. We've seen ratings upgrades from all three ratings agencies for our sovereign ratings over the past year or so. Moody's, Fitch, and S&P have all upgraded our ratings with a stable outlook. And we hope to continue down this path. But at the same time, I would also like to mention the tax to GDP, which is up by 1.4%, from 8.8% to 10.2%. So we are going in the right direction. We have to stay the course. And we slowly have to bring growth back into the economy, but the quality of growth matters. Many of you have been here long enough, have been presidents and CEOs of banks, and have witnessed these boom and bust cycles long enough to know that we have been at this point in the macroeconomic stability journey before. And the question is, where do we go from here? How do we, once and for all, ensure that we can get sustainable and inclusive economic growth? How can we sustainably increase our exports so that once we're at the end of an IMF program, we have the ability to sustainably earn foreign exchange reserves. We have this ability to sustainably earn exports every year so that we don't face a foreign exchange reserve crisis every time our economy goes above 4% or 5% GDP growth, which is what we've been seeing again and again. And that urgency very much is there in the government. That realization is very much there in the government. The Prime Minister knows it. Many of you, we meet sometimes physically or virtually in meetings chaired by the Prime Minister where this is discussed. And so now the focus is on ensuring not only that we get growth, but we get the right growth, and that growth that really restructures our economy in the right way and puts us on a path where we don't have to go into an IMF program again. I'll briefly mention 2, 3, 4 things that are happening right now. The first, or one of the foremost things, is the tariff policy. Some of you may have seen, we have committed to a very drastic reduction in tariffs as part of our national tariff policy. We have had high tariff rates. As many of you know, we've got 3 types of tariffs in this country: customs duties, additional customs duties, and regulatory duties. As per the new policy, step 1 of which has already been announced and implemented in the current budget. We intend to remove additional customs duties and regulatory duties completely over the course of the next 5 years. And customs duties shall have a maximum slab of 15% after 5 years. We're ensuring that this is done gradually so that businesses have a chance to respond. But the Prime Minister very much believes that we need to bring down the tariff barriers, not only to reduce the cost of, for our industries in terms of raw materials and the machinery that's required, in order to make ourselves more competitive from an export perspective, but also in order to ensure that we get more competitiveness into our economy. We do also help ensure that we get better quality products to our citizens at lower prices. The second thing I'd like to mention is an industrial policy that's in the works. There's a lot of work that has been done. It's a cross-cutting policy that touches upon the energy sector, tax reforms. That is at the final stages, and we hope to have that out soon because we realize that tariffs alone are not sufficient to ensure we achieve the objective that I've mentioned, both of more employment and more exports. So there's a raft of reforms. We are in the middle of a major privatization program. The privatization of PIA has never been at such an advanced stage before. We are hoping to not only just complete that in this fiscal year, but also the privatization of the first 3 distribution companies. At the same time, the energy sector overall, we are on a path of circular debt reduction, and the negotiations have been carried out with the IPPs, as you know. So I'm just very briefly mentioning this. Some of these things may be known to you, but there's very much a focus now on ensuring that not only do we stay the course on this macroeconomic stability journey, but now the clock is ticking and we are able to make meaningful progress on these reforms so that we can meaningfully restructure our economy. Now I'll very quickly come to the cashless part, which has been mentioned various times. The cashless initiative is something that the Prime Minister is chairing himself. Initially, he was chairing a meeting of this once every week. He himself is the chair of the committee. I have the privilege of being a member of this committee, along with other cabinet colleagues and government officials, but also President PBA is a member of it. Karandaz is here. They're not only members, but they're also serve as the secretary of the committee. I like the reference by Zafar Saab to him as the godfather of Rast. I'll definitely use that going forward. And so we also have friends from the private sector. I see Amir Ibrahim Saab here and other members. So between the public sector and the private sector, there's been a real push. The Prime Minister now takes that meeting once every 2 weeks. It's a cross-cutting initiative which requires interministerial, intergovernmental agency collaboration. I'm pleased to say that we have started making meaningful progress. We have built some momentum. I'll just share a few targets. A few targets after deliberations between the people I've just mentioned have been locked at the level of the Prime Minister. For example, the active number of merchants, the number of active merchants on digital payments currently stand at 500,000. The target is now to achieve 2 million active merchants by June 2026. Similarly, the number of digital banking users using mobile apps or our internet users currently stands at 95 million. We are targeting to achieve 120 million by June 2026. The objective is to double the number of digital transactions between June 25 and June 26. And at the same time, we're working to digitize all government payments by December 2026. That means all government-to-person payments, all person-to-government payments, both at the federal and provincial levels. There are 3 pillars which are working on this. The first pillar is digital payments adoption and innovation. The Governor State Bank leads that. The second is digital payments infrastructure, the digital public infrastructure, the Ministry of IT leads that. I see Secretary IT here. And government payments digitization is led by the Finance Division. So this is something that we're working on. We are working together with the private sector, and we look forward to engaging with you on this. I've been given the responsibility of working with these colleagues to coordinate this exercise. We have a review meeting once every 2 weeks before we all collectively go with our update to the Prime Minister. So there's a real push here. And in that sense, this launch is very, very relevant. We look forward to be able to replicate this with our existing banks and with other operations going forward. So with that, I'd like to congratulate His Excellency once again on the launch of Mashreq Digital. And we look forward to its success. And I also congratulate him on the launching of the middle office in Pakistan. And I congratulate Zafar Saab on a successful event hosted by the PBA today. I wish you all a lovely evening. Thank you very much.